There were parts of child rearing that I was absolutely terrified about, but I knew that all of it would be worth it. Hi there, I'm Nancy Nash with Starfish Strength. I'm a personal trainer, a nutrition specialist, a group fitness instructor, and a behavior change specialist. And today I want to talk to you about a topic I'm not a specialist in. Even though I'm not an expert on grief and loss, I have experienced them deeply, and they've been some of the biggest barriers to holding me back from things that I really wanted, including this business. So today I want to share a fairly recent story. I want to tell you our adoption story. As long as I can remember, kids have been part of my life. Growing up as the oldest of 11, I've always seen myself as a big sister or just a sister. I've helped out with after school programs. I worked in childcare for a while, working with infants up to school age kids. I've done youth programs at churches and at the YMCA. And for a few years, I worked with a middle school girls exercise and self-esteem building program. Those are some of the most rewarding experiences of my life, and I wouldn't trade them for anything. And part of the reason I was able to do them at the level that I was because I didn't have my own children. I waited to have children. When I married my husband, I was 27. We were scraping by, and those years really taught us a lot about each other, about our communication, and we started, making goals and making plans for ourselves. And initially I said, I want 5 children, because that seemed like a more reasonable number than 11. And then it was 3, and then it was 2 and an accident. I knew that I wanted kids to be a real part of my life, no matter what. Working in childcare taught me that I really had the ability to love children deeply who were not my own. Working in a multitude of youth programs showed me that I really cared especially hard for the kids that didn't have nurturing parents. Parenting is really complicated. I don't ever want to place blame, but I do feel like there are so many of us who can relate to having those adults in our lives that really have impacted who we've become, even if they were in our lives for a short period of time. And I have always taken great pride in being one of those safe people for kids, for high schoolers. So when we finally tried to have kids and couldn't, I was disappointed, but I never felt like I was entitled to a child. And eventually I kind of made peace with it. Not entirely, but enough that I felt like I could care for other people's children, and I didn't feel any feelings of animosity about that. I never felt like I was owed the experience. There were parts of child rearing that I was absolutely terrified about and well aware of, but I knew that all of it would be worth it. My husband and I had entertained the idea of adoption since very early in our marriage, and as I realized how difficult it was for me to have children biologically, it started to make more and more sense to me. Regardless of where you decide to adopt from, it's an expensive process. So because of that barrier, we waited even longer. In 2022, we had the honor to host a child from Colombia here for 5 weeks, and it was absolutely amazing. I mean, it wasn't easy. It was actually really complicated in the beginning, not just because of the language barrier, but just because of all the differences in life experiences. And also, even though I don't completely know all of the layers of that child's story, some of the attachments and disappointments he experienced in his own life. But as that first week moved on and we started to build camaraderie and started to build our bond, I was so delighted that we wound up with a child that was incredibly outgoing, had such an optimistic view about the world, loved being outside, loved new experiences, had an incredible amount of gratitude for the things that he had. I was really blown away, and I started to really fall in love with this kid. I really saw a lot of little me in him. So when he went back to Colombia, we started the adoption process and we went through it for 2 years. And, I can abbreviate all that. What I will say is it was just a roller coaster of emotions. It was a lot of paperwork. Everything is still done with physical paper and not so much electronic files. So that was a lot. And you just kind of keep this series of like moving Tetris pieces because like you have to make sure that this is done within a 6-month window and then that can't expire. So I can't even tell you how many times I got fingerprinted and background checked and you just kind of keep going through these layers while you're waiting for other layers to be ready. And so everything finally came together and we sent the whole packet of stuff over. And I should also mention that over this 2-year period, we had absolutely no contact with this child. So we could think about him and look at his pictures. We could pray for him. We could talk to friends about how we missed him, but we had absolutely no way of telling him how hard we were working to make sure that he could be part of our family. The long and short of it is that we got denied. As I've come to learn, that's not incredibly common, but we did our best to appeal. We went through, more evaluation. We had a really wonderful therapist that we worked with to do a psychological evaluation of us and really make a case that we would be suitable parents, but the Colombian government did not agree. And I would say that some of the grief process of this has reminded me of the way in which I was grieving with my dad, because there's a tendency for me to want to blame myself. There's a tendency for me to say that even though they cited my upbringing as one of the reasons, like maybe I could have shaped it in a way that would have been, more stylistically suitable for them to think that I was a suitable parent. It's really heartbreaking to know that all of the good qualities that I've worked really hard to build in myself, that we've worked really hard for as a couple, didn't amount to enough to overcome the reasons that they thought I would not make a suitable parent. It's a hard thing to accept that I have had the honor and the responsibility of caring for so many other people's children, and that I was told that I would not be suitable to parent this child. I don't get to know what happens to him. I hope that he's adopted by another family. I hope that he's an amazing future. And my hope really is based in who I saw that he was a person that could just really open his heart despite all the disappointment that he had been through, and just really embrace people, really embrace life and enjoy it, even though he'd experienced so much disappointment. And that also when it was time to go, like he moved on and he went. And I hope that he took everything he learned, not just from us, but from all of the other good people that have come into his life. I hope he takes those things with him. I want to encourage anyone who might be interested in either hosting a child for a period of time or an adoption to pursue it. The hosting programs that I've learned about vary country to country. In some countries, you get to stay in touch with the child. In some countries, you're actually hosting children who already have parents, but they might actually be in a worse situation than the kids in the orphanage. So you get to stay in contact with them and maybe be education support for them later on. So there are a whole range of opportunities. And if you want more information, I am so happy to connect you with that. And if you feel like you have the heart to really love children who are not your own, and you feel like you have not just the emotional capacity, but the financial capacity, because it was definitely an undertaking, I would really encourage you to consider adoption. And again, I'm happy to connect you with any of the resources that I have. I feel like any loss does teach us. It does help us become more resilient. And as pained as I still feel, because this feels so fresh, I really do have hope that other people will see this, that they will care to give a child a chance at an amazing life. Or if you decide to just host a child at an amazing summer and really be able to take on some life skills that will help them imagine what they could have for the rest of their life, because there's value in that. And if you're a person who has wanted to parent and hasn't been able to, I really want to say that I feel your pain and I appreciate your heart. And thank you for loving all of those kids in your life that need that other stable adult, because I had those people growing up, and I will continue to be that for other children, and I hope you do too. And if adopting kids is not your thing, I know there are a lot of animals that could use your love as well. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you found something today that helps you move one step closer to something you really want for yourself, whether that is hosting a child or adopting a child, or there's another way that you really want to give the love that you have back to the universe. Those are all valid. Again, I'm happy to share with you the resources that I have for the hosting programs and the adoption programs that I'm familiar with, and have a one-on-one conversation with you. So please do reach out to me if you're interested in that. And I look forward to continuing this journey with you, mental, physical, emotional, in the next video. Thanks so much. I'll see you next time. Good job, guys. Thanks for being in the video, guys. Good job.